BlockFi is bankrupt. One of my biggest lessons with crypto recently has been how much leverage there is in the system. And you have these people like Anthony Pomp, as they call him, talking about how we have more buyers than ever. And it's like the golden age of crypto. And I don't think we're in the golden age of crypto. Crypto went mainstream a little bit too early.
I'm getting into crypto with FTX. You in?
Yeah, I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never.
And then popped. And the reason for that, well, there are many and varied, but it's just not providing enough value to people. It's still so speculative and people see it as a get rich quick scheme. I got to be honest, all this yield farming, it feels like the ICO craze of 2017 where like everybody had a coin and you were a dummy if you hadn't made one yet. People are like offering 10% plus yield. And the way that they're offering that is through extreme risk. And then you find out all of the incestuous shit that's been happening in these crypto tech companies or whatever, in these crypto companies. So they're like creating their own tokens, right? And then they're like swapping their tokens and using those to borrow cash in the real world economy. You have these companies like swapping coins with each other and like collateralizing their fake tokens and getting real money from the real economy. So Bitcoin, I thought maybe we'd see a $10,000 Bitcoin in my lifetime. You don't really think of it as something that could be ever worth like $20,000 is fucking crazy. I don't know. Maybe I had a naive understanding of it in terms of two things. One, there's truly a limited supply, and that's the foundation of the network. And so that policy will never change. And also, I think I underestimated, despite my own foibles, how easy it is to burn Bitcoin and how the OGs, they'd slip out of their hands, you know, they'd like gamble them away or they'd like forget the password or whatever. And because it was all just nerd money for so long. And it only became really important recently. But yeah, I think we got into a virtuous feedback cycle. And actually, I think the Fed created it. So the Fed is just injecting money into the system for what, a decade? Was it like post 2008 when all that started? I don't really know. However long the Fed has just been funneling money into the system. And then you get crypto right around that time. It would have been right around that time when the economy got better, you know, 2010, 2012. And that whole time it has been able to take advantage of the free money from the Fed. But all that is stopped now. And we are in this new, possibly age of higher interest rates for maybe some years. Who really knows? But the point is, you got the Fed printing cash, and that's injecting money into the system, and tech stocks and Bitcoin and everything is just exploding. Then at the same time, you have these companies inventing their own Chuck E. Cheese tokens, the FTT token, FTX, come on. And then they're like buying and purchasing other companies for like completely made up values. And so, for example, part of how FTX collapsed is CZ, the CEO of Binance, basically saw how overexposed they were and over leveraged on their own internal token, which he had been paid in a buyout. Like he was an early seed investor or whatever. He was an early investor in FTX, and then later FTX purchased their ownership back, which is fucking crazy because then they lost it. In that purchase, part of the payment was these FTT tokens. And so they use that. And it just shows you how incestuous all this is. These companies are just printing tokens and then mixing them all up and attributing real value to them, billions of dollars of value. Now crypto's starting to make sense. And, you know, so you got these people like Pomp is on CNBC, and he's like, the price of Bitcoin, it's blah, 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 blah. We could see a $4,000 Bitcoin easy. When grown men cry, that's when you buy. And we're not there. They're not crying. They got to be sobbing first. We're not there yet. I think that there could be an immense amount of leverage in the crypto system still. There is a possibility that this FTX event is the bottom, right? And we'll have like this sharp recovery. I'm all for it, right? I want to see the $100 Bitcoin more than anyone, especially right now. It's not going to happen because trust has been destroyed. So crypto is like nerd money for time in all of history. And then the first thing it does when it goes mainstream is be shown to be a giant mismanaged fraud. I mean, the fact that Sam Bankman-Fried gets any airtime right now is absurd. It's absurd that he's not just in jail. It really just shows you, you know, like you can buy a lot of privileges in this world. And that is why you should make as much money and keep as much money as you possibly can because of all the privileges it can buy you. He has bought a lot of political favors and then he's cashing those in right now. And so he's hanging out in the Bahamas and he just had this phone interview with Tiffany, I think. She's like a crypto self-reporter. What do you call it? Amateur reporter. She had a great interview with him where she basically drilled in and asked him some pretty good questions. And his laissez-faire, is that a word? Like his like nonchalant attitude towards all this. So first of all, he starts talking about like how his biggest mistake is filing for Chapter 11. Your biggest mistake was stealing $4 billion of other people's money. As far as I can tell, here's what happened to FTX. If I went to buy Bitcoin on FTX, they didn't even buy the Bitcoins. Let's say I buy 10 grand of Bitcoin on FTX. They take that 10 grand and they buy IOUs. I guess it's called paper Bitcoin. I guess it's like a highly discounted or some leverage thing. As far as I can tell, FTX held 0 Bitcoin. So who knows what the fuck was happening with that? How is it possible for somebody to buy Bitcoin on your company's platform and you don't hold any Bitcoin? So that's shady as fuck. Not only did you not just take that 10 grand and put it in the bank, you sent it to a third party that was doing high volume leveraged trading in crypto during a market crisis while Putin was invading Ukraine. Maybe I'm getting this all wrong, but as far as I can tell, Sam Bankman-Fraud, he's about to be, is a liar. He spent a lot of money to get a lot of political connections that he's now cashing in. That guy's got to go to jail. He's got to go to jail or something. He can't go on CNBC. That's crazy. That's crazy. So in this interview that Tiffany did with him just like yesterday, one of the things he said that's just crazy is he has $4 billion standing by to inject that liquidity or whatever, to inject that money back into the company and save them from bankruptcy. And if only he hadn't filed Chapter 11, then none of this would be happening and he would already have that $4 billion. First of all, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe he has 250 million. I think whatever he has is in fake fucking tokens and it's more FTC or whatever. You know, we made up another token. USD cash, nobody has $4 billion in cash anymore. The government is taking the money out of the system. As far as like all the free money for investors, it's gone. Those days are over. Now we're in this new regime. So then you got people like Pomp and he's on CNBC and he's telling people there has never been more buyers of Bitcoin. Dude, the price could fall in half and then fall in half and then fall in half. Okay, so maybe this FTX marks the bottom. It's impossible. There is zero trust and contagion will spread. The price of Bitcoin is going to come down. And I think it has to break 10,000. That's based off nothing other than how can anyone have any confidence in crypto right now? I'm here for the Cryptopia and I don't want to spread FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Yeah, I think that Bitcoin could be in trouble and the entire crypto market could basically collapse. The world is crazy. There's so many threats out there. The real problems are inflation and the war in Ukraine. Until we have absolute clarity on both of those, I think the market is going to suffer. And then crypto has a third contingent, which I believe we need regulation. Another thing that Pomp said, he's talking about how there's already regulation. There's obviously not enough regulation, right? By definition, there's not enough regulation. The leaders of the industry know this. Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, is constantly trying to push and work with regulators to help drive mainstream adoption of crypto because investors need confidence. We have confidence in our banks because of insurance, FICT or whatever. And the same exists for investments, SIPC. We figured out as a financially advanced society, all these different rules and regulations that need to be in place. This is why you never want to destroy the government because all that was so hard earned. But we have earned it and we figured it out. And now it's time to do the same thing with crypto and get some real regulation in there. You can't just take somebody's money, tell them that they own Bitcoin, buy an IOU for Bitcoin, then take that money, send it to a third party so they can do high leverage derivative crypto volume trading bullshit with your fucking money. So that's why we need regulation. God. I think it's actually going to be a real hard time for crypto for the next 6 months to maybe 18 months to 24 months. Who knows? The thing that's going to revive the stock market is clarity on inflation and the war in Ukraine and when Fed is going to turn on the money printer is going to be the real party. So stay tuned for that, because now it's often it hasn't been for a decade. Then what crypto land needs is all that plus regulation. 5 years, I don't know. It's not 6 months. In the previous crashes that made me crap my pants was, I can't even remember the numbers exactly. You can look it up. It was around when it hit 1200. And then I swear to God, I'm pretty sure it crashed down to like 79 for an hour, the longest hour of your life. But then I think in general, it like crashed down to like 300 or 250 or something like that. But there was a deep red candle one day. And we have not had that event for crypto. It has just been languishing. And what I think is really happening is the long-term believers aren't selling. They really are just like their crypto is in cold storage. What I think is causing downward price pressure is you have everyone else that doesn't have their crypto in cold storage, but they just bought it on an exchange, and maybe they use leverage to buy it, or they took loans against their crypto, and as the price comes down, they're being forced to liquidate. As leverage drains out of the system, that's going to cause a constant downward price pressure. The real driver of Bitcoin into bargain prices is going to be how deep is the contagion from FTX, because right now it's not bad at all. BlockFi was already going to go bust this summer from the Luna collapse, and they did a Hail Mary pass or a saving throw or whatever. They figured it out. And then this one nuked them. This one popped them. And that was the same thing with FTX. But the contagion risk with SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, and FTX is a lot higher because of this basically buying spree that he went on. A lot of people have talked about this, where he created a lot of fake money using extreme leverage on false collateral that had no value. And then he just bought a bunch of companies, and he was like seen to be like this savior, and he was like buying them on discounts and blah, blah, blah. And this was kind of like, I guess, post Luna. Maybe this was in the wake of that last collapse. There is a risk that other companies depend on FTX are going to go bankrupt, a la BlockFi. The question that all the customers are wondering now is about recovery. 20% would be an impressive number to recover. So Sam Bankman-Fraud is a freed fucking fraud. The fact that he is being given any airtime, it almost just shows you the roots of corruption. What's the relationship between whoever runs things at CNBC and the war in Ukraine, the Bahamas, the Democratic Party, FTX, and probably 3 others in there? Okay, there's some work for the conspiracy theorists. You know, you got your work cut out for you on that one. But if you're a true believer in crypto, this could never be a better time in, I think, a little while longer. We need clarity on FTX contagion in order to understand how low the price of Bitcoin is going to go. I never would have imagined how much leverage was in the system until all this happened. And it just makes so much sense that there would be. And it also makes sense to me that there still would be a lot of leverage in the system. But if there isn't, and I'm wrong about that, then we probably, maybe we'll create a base around here and climb back up slowly. But I think it'll very much match people's memories, which will be long. And they're going to have to rebuild trust. They're going to need more to rebuild trust than these proof of reserves mechanisms. You know, like that's like an emergency bandage on the wound. To rebuild trust, you need transparency. You need a podcast. Coinbase, hire me to produce your podcast. Any crypto tech company. That'd be really cool. That'd be really fun. I think I'd be really good at it. But yeah, they got to rebuild trust. And the way to do that is through transparency and self-regulation and working with the government and regulating in that regard. And you basically need some way to cryptographically prove that a customer's funds are safe and accounted for. If ever there was a use for blockchain, build an accounting mechanism for it, right? So that customers can know based off of like the same level of security and understanding of the protocols or network or whatever of crypto, that their funds are secure and not being leveraged to do crazy trading with. Solve that problem with crypto, and that'll build some trust. But I think it's a big problem. It's going to take years, and then we'll get the global coin or whatever, you know, world coin, whatever you want to call it, and then we'll all be united as one. So until that happens, thanks for hanging out. Nobody joined the fucking stream. It was just 36 minutes of me talking into a camera, but I'm still going to put it on YouTube because why not?